had this gentleman who came to me and said, Rituparna, I need your help. Can you help me find my stories? I want you to help me and teach me storytelling. I have tried to do it by myself. I've read through lots of books. I have watched videos. I've tried to follow podcasts and other storytellers who tell, but I am somehow unable to crack the storytelling code. So can you help me find and tell the stories? And I said, well, yes, of course. That's what I do for a living. Let's get started. But he said, well, now, while you do all of that, I just want to tell you that I don't want too many stories to tell. It's good if you teach me 5 stories worth telling. So I said, okay, do you know which kind of stories do you want to tell, or what are those stories, and how will you use these stories to connect with whatever you want to talk about? And he said, oh, well, I don't know what the stories are, and I don't know where are they hidden. So I said, look here, sir, the way I work is I will not find any stories from the air and I'll give it to you and let you tell them. I will try and help you create what I call a story engine. That's what you need. You need a story engine which works by itself, or you keep churning it, you keep it well oiled so that stories keep coming out, and you can use them depending on where and how you want to tell it. Now, this gentleman was head on, he was very headstrong, and he just wanted 5 stories. He didn't know where will those 5 stories come from. He didn't know the process that we would follow to tell those stories, but he was not ready to take the conversation ahead, or he was not ready to try and understand how to create this story engine and how to keep those stories coming over and over again to him, stories which he would perhaps even live the next day. And he did not want to understand that. Now, that's something which I wanted to share with all of you, that storytelling is a science, and to understand the science behind it, you need to understand the logic of how do stories work and how do stories work with your listener. Now, if you were to tell the same story over and over and over and over again, chances are that either you are rusting, you are going stale, your stories are going stale, they're not fresh, and somebody who sees you will know that this gentleman has only 5 stories to tell. And then therefore that itself is where you sort of begin to ruin, or you begin to crumble as a storyteller. Imagine walking into a room where everybody looks at you and said, now he's going to begin with that story and then that and then that, and that's it, he's going to crack that joke in the end. You don't want to be that kind of a storyteller. So what's important is to really think that how can I really use stories or learn storytelling in a way that I have enough, that I never run out of stories to tell, and I have a new story for every occasion. Now, where do these stories come from? Where will you find these stories that will help you connect with strangers, connect with people who you regularly work with, stories that will really fuel other people's imaginations, and they want to be drawn towards you to tell stories? Now, to answer that question, I will sort of keep this, I will use my work as a performance storyteller. Now, when we work on stories that I want to perform on as a performance storyteller, I look at the metrics of where will that story come from, how much time will it take for me to put it together, to choreograph it, to re-script it, to reimagine it, and then to rehearse and to tell it. Now, this entire process may take 5 days, and it may take 5 months, it may take longer than that, but definitely not 5 years. But if it takes me a certain amount of time, I know this kind of a story is a very powerful story because I've spent a lot of time working and structuring it. Now, the other people, let's say the people like you who are trying to use stories in conversations, in your marketing, in your pitching, in your presentation, you don't need 5 months to work on a story. What you need is 5 months of maybe story strategy. But you should be able to fill your story bag with enough and more stories in those 5 months, that you have the right story for the right time, for the right occasion, and you don't run out of a story to tell, and your stories don't become stale. So don't be like that gentleman who says, I want to learn only 5 stories, and 5 stories that will help me win a conversation every single time, create an impact every single time. Wherever I go, every room that I go into, I want people to turn around and look at me that, here comes so and so, and here comes he with his story bag. No, that's one of the reasons why my organization is called Your Story Bag, because I want you to find your story bag, and within it a story engine that is constantly churning enough stories for you, so that you never run out of stories to tell, and you always also master the art of picking that right story for the right time for the right audience, so that you can wow your audience every single time you open your mouth to tell a story.